like to call on Harnett County to this time.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let's pray. Heavenly Father, thank you for another wonderful day. Thank you for the many blessings you bestow upon us. Lord, I ask you to continue to bless us and be with this Board of Commissioners as we make decisions for the county. Lord, thank you. We pray, amen.
You will remain standing for the Harnett County Heroes Remembrance presentation.
Ollie R. Link, Cook, Distinguished Service Cross. The Distinguished Service Cross is presented to Ollie R. Link, Cook, United States Army, for extraordinary heroism in action near Saint-Supple, France, October 9th and 10th, 1918. Hearing that the casualties in his company were very heavy, Cook Link left his place in the kitchen and joined his comrades on the front line. From there, he advanced alone a distance of 200 yards and located 2 machine gun nests, the journey being done in the face of heavy enemy fire. Company M, 119th Infantry Regiment, 30th Division, American Expeditionary Forces. Lynn Marshbanks for Ollie Link. On March 10th, 2026, your name and citation that appear on the Harnett County Wall of Heroes and will remain so forever as part of the history of Harnett County is being duly recognized for your act of heroism while serving in the United States Armed Forces. We as a county come together to commend you for your actions and dedication to our great nation. Thank you.
All right, moving along, I'll consider any additions or deletions to the published agenda.
Move to approve the published agenda, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Item 5, consent agenda.
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Number 6, ETC Institute presentation of community survey results.
Good morning, Commissioners. We're going to hear the results of the Harnett County 2025 community survey that was conducted. And I wanted to start by introducing our partner in the work, ETC Institute. ETC Institute is a nationally recognized research firm that works with local governments across the country to help them understand resident expectations, service performance, opportunities for improvement. Leading the presentation this morning is Jason Murato, Vice President with ETC Institute, who brings extensive experience in community surveys and performance measurements for counties like Harnett County. Survey was intentionally aligned with Harnett County's strategic goal number 2, organizational excellence, specifically objective 2.5, which focuses on improving resident and customer experience through efficient, high-quality service delivery and continuous improvement. Team Harnett Performance Management Plan, Key Strategic Action 2.5.1, calls for implementing a formal process to obtain citizen feedback on the county's service provision. This survey represents a major step in fulfilling that ongoing commitment. ETC Institute used a statistically valid random sample approach. They mailed surveys to households across the county and collected 502 surveys, providing results that are reliable and representative of our community. What you'll see this morning is just not data. It's actionable insights from residents who feel we're doing well, where they want us to focus next, and how they prefer to receive information from the county. The feedback will help guide and support continuous improvement across county service. And with that, I'll turn it over to Jason.
Great, thanks. Good morning, my name is Jason Murato. I'm the Vice President and Director of Community Research at ETC Institute. We're a marketing and research firm that specializes in conducting community surveys for local governments, and we just finished for the first time conducting a community survey for Harnett County. So today I'm going to walk through the key findings from the survey. Just a little background about ETC Institute. We're a national leader in providing market research for local governments. We've been doing this type of work for over 40 years, and in the last 10 years alone, we've conducted surveys in more than 1,000 communities across the country, and that includes a lot of work for communities throughout North Carolina. So this is the type of work that we specialize in. There are several reasons to conduct a survey like this. One is to get an objective assessment of how satisfied residents are with major county services and to determine what residents feel are the top priorities for the community. This survey also could set a baseline for future surveys. A lot of communities that we work with conduct these surveys on a regular basis. The most frequent time frame is every 2 to 3 years, oftentimes asking a lot of these same questions so that you can measure trends over time. And then we're also able to compare your results with other communities across the country. So this survey was 5 pages long. It's a fairly typical length for this type of community survey. The survey was administered by a combination of mail and online to randomly selected households throughout Harnett County. We received 502 completed surveys. Our goal was to get to 400, so we accomplished that. And the 502 surveys at the 95% level of confidence has a margin of error of plus or minus 4.4%. Essentially, that means that if we conducted the survey the same way 100 times, 95 times the results would be plus or minus 4.5% from what we're reporting. So the results are not perfect even for a statistically valid survey, but the margin of error is small. So here we have a map of the county. The red dots are households that completed a survey. We had a good distribution throughout the county. And as we were administering the survey, we made sure that the demographics of survey respondents reflect the actual population of the county. So we made sure we had a good representation based on key demographic areas such as age, race, ethnicity, and gender. So here's what we learned from the survey. We found that survey respondents gave very high satisfaction ratings to county services. One of the areas that especially stood out is that Harnett County rates 23 percentage points above the U.S. average when it comes to providing customer service to residents. We'll look at some of this in more detail in just a little bit. The top overall priorities for core county services are development services, parks and recreation services, and social services. And then we asked respondents, what are the top priorities for the community looking towards the future? And the top priorities are providing access to quality health care, improving water quality, and increasing public safety. So first we looked at some perceptions and county services. This was the first question on the survey. We asked respondents to rate their perceptions of Harnett County in a number of different ways. If you look at the top of the chart, you can see the highest rated areas are Harnett County as a place to live. Respondents also gave very high ratings to several other areas as well. So here we have again a map of the county, and we broke the results out by zip code. So this tells us if residents in different parts of the county have different perceptions of Harnett County or rate services differently. The areas, this map is for how residents feel about Harnett County as a place to live. The areas in blue are very positive ratings. So in those areas, residents gave very high ratings to Harnett County as a place to live. So most of the map is in blue. A few areas are in yellow, which are not bad ratings, but those are more average ratings when it comes to Harnett County as a place to live. So mostly very positive throughout the county. Here we ask respondents to rate major core county services. The dark blue are those residents who are very satisfied. The light blue is satisfied. The gray is neutral, and we interpret neutral as average or meeting expectations. It's a rating of a 3 on a 5-point scale, so it's not a bad rating. And then the pink and red are those who are dissatisfied or very dissatisfied. So overall, the positive rating is far away the negative. If you look at the top of the chart, you can see the highest rated areas are the library system, EMS, and emergency 911 services. So we also compared these results to a national survey that ETC Institute conducts every 1 to 2 years with randomly selected residents all across the country. So for this slide, the dark blue line are Harnett County residents who are either very satisfied or satisfied. The light blue are the satisfaction ratings for residents in the Atlantic region, which includes the state of North Carolina as well as surrounding states. And then the gray bar are the ratings for residents from all across the U.S. So you can see in all 4 of these areas, library services, EMS, solid waste, and parks and recreation, Harnett County rates significantly higher than both the regional and the national average. So here we asked about other aspects of Harnett County government. If you look at the top row, you can see most respondents are satisfied with customer service provided by Harnett County employees. And this is another question we were able to compare to our national survey. And you can see over 60% of Harnett County residents are either very satisfied or satisfied with the customer service provided by the county, which is more than 20 percentage points above the U.S. average. It's about 20 percentage points above the regional average. When it comes to the availability of information about services and activities and the overall value received for county taxes and fees, the ratings are pretty much on par with other communities. So for those respondents who have contacted the county within the past 12 months, we asked them how to rate their interaction with county employees. So again, the blue are the positive ratings, gray is neutral, the pink and red are negative. And you can see that respondents have had very positive interaction with county employees. For example, if you look at the top row, most respondents gave very high ratings to the courtesy of county employees they've interacted with, as well as the appropriateness of county employees' responses. Here we asked about different aspects of safety and emergency services. You can see the positive ratings far outweigh the negative for all of these. For all of these, at least 60% or more of respondents gave positive ratings, and less than 20% gave negative ratings. In particular, most respondents, if you look at the top row, say they feel safe at their home, but all of the other aspects of public safety received high ratings as well. And this is another question we were able to compare to our national survey. You can see in all 3 areas, overall quality of fire services, the overall feeling of safety in your community, and the overall quality of police services, all 3 rate significantly higher than the U.S. average. So here's another map. This one shows how safe residents feel in their home. You can see the entire map is blue. Quite a bit of it is dark blue, which is the highest possible rating. So this shows that respondents all throughout Harnett County say they feel safe at their home. The survey also had several questions related to medical health care. So here we asked respondents about how satisfied they are with access and quality of medical health care services. You can see 47% of respondents rated access to medical health care services as excellent or good. About 34% said below average or poor. We also created a map for this question. This is for access to medical health care. You can see the entire map is yellow, which is not bad ratings, but kind of average. And the ratings you can see are really similar all throughout the county. And this map shows how respondents feel about the quality of medical health care throughout the county. Most of the map is yellow. We do have that one area in orange where the ratings are a little bit lower, but in general, this means residents are satisfied generally with the quality of medical health care services. And then we asked respondents, has anyone in your household experienced problems or challenges seeking medical health care in the past 2 years? And you can see that 30% of respondents say they have. And then we asked respondents about potential barriers to getting medical health care. So on this chart, the dark blue means that is not a barrier to receiving medical health care. The dark red means it's a major barrier. So you can see lack of childcare, lack of transportation. Most respondents do not feel those are barriers to medical health care. The top barriers are not enough doctors or clinics, or long wait times for appointments, which are the two bottom rows. And that's consistent with what we see in a lot of other communities across the country. The survey also had a couple of questions related to behavioral health care. Here we asked respondents if anyone in their household has sought behavioral health care services anytime in the past 2 years. You can see 25% have sought counseling or therapy, 21% mental health services. And then we also asked, what are barriers that prevent you from receiving behavioral health services? And this is similar to medical health care. The top barrier is not enough counselors or behavioral health providers nearby, which again is typical of a lot of other communities as well. So now we'll take a look at top priorities. We saw earlier how satisfied residents are with core county services. As a follow-up question, we asked which services should receive the most emphasis from county leaders over the next 2 years. You can see the top two priorities are development services and then parks and recreation. Those are the two that especially stand out. Other top priorities are social services and then soil and water conservation services. This is something we call the important satisfaction rating, and this analysis is based on two different types of data. First, we ask residents how satisfied they are with services. Then we ask which services are the most important for county leaders to focus on. And the idea behind this is those areas that have a combination of low satisfaction ratings, but at the same time are rated as the most important, are the ones we rank as the top priorities. And then these are listed in priority order based on that combination of satisfaction and importance. So you can see the top priority is development services. The next highest priorities are parks and recreation, social services, soil and water conservation, and then the county's tax department. Here we ask respondents about future priorities for the county. The dark blue means these are very important priorities for the future, the light blue meaning blue. So the top priorities overall are providing access to quality health care, improving water quality, increasing public safety, increasing opportunities to age in place, and then increasing conservation of farms and environmentally sensitive land. Then we had a few other findings. Here we asked respondents if there were an emergency and a temporary evacuation were required, where would you go? You can see almost half of respondents said a friend or family's home in the state, but not outside of the county. And then about an even number of people said they would go to a friend or family's home out of state. 23% would not evacuate, and then 21% would go to a friend or family's home in Harnett County. We also asked respondents where they get information about Harnett County news, events, and just other county information. You can see the top three sources of information are Harnett County's social media accounts, the county's websites, and then word of mouth. It's typical to see word of mouth and the county's website near the top, but Harnett County's social media accounts ranks higher here than we've seen in a lot of other communities, with that clearly being the number one source of information. And then as a follow-up question to that, we asked which of these sources of information would you most prefer to get information from the county? The most preferred source of information are county social media, followed by the county's website, and then county electronic newsletter emailed to them. So just a quick recap, we saw that respondents gave high satisfaction rating to county services. Really, that was high across the board. And one of the areas that especially stood out was customer service provided by county employees. The top priorities for core county services are development services, parks and recreation, and social services. And then the top priorities for the community moving forward are improving access to quality health care, improving water quality, and increasing public safety. So with that, if anyone has any comments or any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
I have a question.
Sure.
I would like to know that you do a survey on the hiring practice of Harnett County.
I'm sorry, a survey on what did you say?
Hiring practice of Harnett County. Hiring practice of Harnett County. 'Cause we have very few minorities in headed agencies here in this county. So, I mean, where would you put that scale on this survey?
Yeah, we didn't ask about that.
Right now,
I think that's important.
this was an external survey to ask the citizens their input. That information related to hiring and current employees, we have that information internally and can provide that. We didn't need to survey that.
But I would like to see it because I haven't seen us move that needle much in that area here in Harnett County. I consider all people, regardless of who you are, smart enough to head up the departments in this county. We have come a long way, let me say that, but we still have some ways to go.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Moving on to item 7, final update on the 2026 reappraisal. Ms. Wallace.
Good morning. So today I have with me Ryan Vincent from Vincent Valuations, and we will be presenting the final 2026 reappraisal public meeting presentation. This will include some sales, previous information we've gone over, and percentage increases across the county. So I'm going to let Ryan start. We're going to piggyback.
All right, thank you, board. Appreciate the opportunity to come present to you on the last presentation and a summary recap of the reappraisal. So reappraisal is required by North Carolina law at least once every 8 years. So Harnett County follows the Department of Revenue recommended cycle of a 4-year cycle. And this is where we go through and we revalue all the properties as of a particular day and bring them to current market value. And in Harnett County, we have approximately 80,000 properties, and that's growing every day, frankly. So we're tasked by law to value the properties at 100% of market value. So what that means is if your property sold recently for, say, $300,000, you can expect a value somewhere around $300,000. When we do a reappraisal, we are, in this case, we're looking at real estate. That includes anything, the land and anything permanently affixed to it. So over time, as we know, properties change, they go up, they go down, tastes of buyers and sellers change. And the statutes define market value as the most probable price that a willing buyer and willing seller would pay in the open market. Now, one thing that's important to remember is that in the tax office or as part of the reappraisal, we are not creating market value. We're simply taking a snapshot of the actions of buyers and sellers in the marketplace. So here's a short timeline of the reappraisal process. So we started back in the field in 24, doing data collection, reviewing the properties. We brought all that in to do value modeling and value review. That's analyzing the sales and watching what folks are paying in the market for certain types of property. We plan to mail notices here shortly, and then that starts the appeals process. So in Harnett County and across North Carolina, we don't go inside people's houses unless we're specifically requested. So there's some things that are a little more difficult for us. If you have, say, cathedral ceilings that go all the way to a second floor, we might not know that. finished attics or unfinished attics, that's a little bit difficult for us to judge. So again, we're responsible for valuing approximately 80,000 pieces of property as of one particular day, in this case, January 1st, 2026. So we use industry standard methods that are used across the state and also across the country to do this mass appraisal process. Now, the next few slides, we're going to talk about our sales ratio statistics and our percent changes, but just want to put this disclaimer out there that we still have the appeal process to go through, so these numbers are subject to change. So at the onset of the project, we're looking for a median sales ratio. That is a middle point of our sales ratio between 90 and 110, and a COD of 5 to 25. And these stats are set for us by the Department of Revenue and the International Association of Assessing Officers. That's our professional organization. So for Harnett County, we had a little over 8,100 sales in the past 2 years. And just to put that into perspective in comparison to the last reappraisal for 2022, that is almost double. So if we look backwards at the last reappraisal, in 2020 and 2021, we had a little over 4,000 sales. So for this reappraisal, we've had double the amount of sales 4 years later than we did for the previous reappraisal 4 years ago. So our median sales ratio ended at 98.83%, and our mean or our average sales ratio ended at 99.76, and our COD, and that is the spread of those 8,100 sales from that median or mean point, is 5.35. So those are all well within tolerance for what the state looks for and what our professional organizations look for. Excuse me. And that indicates that the way we're valuing and the way we're modeling follows what's going on in the marketplace. So now we're going to touch on some percent changes here. Overall, countywide, we're looking between a 42 and a 46% increase in the overall property tax base. About 95% of the properties will have a higher value than they did in 2022. About 5% will have a lower value, and 13% will change by less than 15% plus or minus. So again, countywide, we're looking 42 to 46. Lillington, 48 to 52% increase. Dunn is looking at 44 to 48. Andrews is looking at 34 to 38. Irwin, 49 to 53. And Coates is 54 to 58% increase. Now, the next few slides that we're going to show are actual properties that sold throughout the county. We're going to show their year built, the previous assessed value from 2022. And it's important to remember that in North Carolina, your assessed value doesn't change from year to year outside of a reappraisal unless you've made changes, physical changes to the house, you've added something, renovated something, or you've split or combined your land. We do not make market changes outside of a reappraisal in North Carolina. So this one was built in 2009. It was assessed for $200,000. Sold in May of 25 for $310,000. That's an increase of 55%. This one was built in 48. It was assessed for $152,000. Sold in April of 25 for $220,000. That's an increase of 45%. This one was built in 1975. Was assessed for $238,000. Sold in November of 24 for $400,000. That's an increase of 68%. This one here was built in 2009, was assessed for $226,000, sold in June of 24 for $310,000. That's an increase of 37%. And next we're going to look at some real property manufactured homes. And we have seen a little bit more increase in these compared to other homes. So this one was built in 1994, was assessed for $82,000, sold for $165,000, and that's an increase of 99%. Next one was built in 2003. It was assessed for $120,000, and it sold for $206,000. That's an increase of 71%. And I just want to touch on that for a second, if I could. Across the state, we have seen the lower valued properties increase more dramatically. And that is because my belief that there is more dollars chasing the same property.
I just have a quick question on this one.
Yes, sir.
How many square feet is this thing?
I don't know. I can get that for you, but apparently somebody thought it was worth $206,000, and that's what they paid for it.
Send that gentleman to talk to us sometime. Some property for him to buy.
Like I said in the beginning, we don't set the values. We look at what the market is doing.
I'm sorry, Dad. That just blew my mind right there. Go ahead.
Well, and that was also a 2024 sale too. Next, we got a couple commercials. So this one was built in 1920, was assessed for $160, sold for $215. That's an increase of 34%. And here we have another one built in 1940, was assessed for $267, sold for $465. That's an increase of 74%. And next, I'm going to let Christine touch for a second on the personal property mobile homes.
Okay. I'll take that. Thank you. So, real property manufactured homes are classified by the removal of the wheels, axles, and tongue, and it is situated on a permanent foundation, and the owner of record is the same for both the manufactured home and the land. So, personal property mobile homes are different in that they do still have the wheels, axles, and tongue attached and are titled in different ownership than the land. So the last known schedule of values for manufactured homes was completed in 1998, and since that time, there have been significant market changes in these value types for these homes. So using data collected from sales of new and used mobile homes, we were able to ascertain a schedule of values to reduce disparities amongst this property type. The following are examples of the sales we have seen in this market. So this manufactured home is a 1986, and it was assessed in 2025 at $2,500. It sold in September of 2024 for $35,000, and we have an assessed value assigned to this for this year at $33,281. The next manufactured home is a 2024 model. It was assessed in 2025 at $22,176 and sold in April of 25 for $64,000. The assessed value for this mobile home is $62,432. I will say that this was sold off the lot from the manufacturer or a dealer. So that was the $64,000 was the dealer price on that home. The next is a double-wide manufactured home that was manufactured in 1994 and had an assessed value of $5,000 and sold in December of 2024 for $67,000, and we are estimating that value this year at $64,997. And the last is a 2025 double-wide that was assessed at $39,200 and sold in March of 25 for $132,000. So we are anticipating that value at $129,260. I will say that the values on these homes, once again, is reflected as if that home was in 1998. So a 2025 or 24 model or even an 87 model was being assessed as if we are still living in 1998. So we saw that disparity and that needed to be corrected. So moving on, we use similar practices in the assessment of mobile homes in regard to size and age, quality, grade of construction, and current condition, and whether it was a single wide or double wide. Staff in our office visited over 6,000 homes to complete this task along with our Vincent Valuations vendor, and we were able to discover more than 1,000 unlisted mobile homes in this project.
All right, so you look at this, and then your tax bill is made up of two pieces. So your tax bill is made up of the assessed value, the taxable value, and your tax rate. So at the tax office, we are simply just looking at market activity, again, the actions of buyers and sellers, and setting an assessed value based on market. And this board here, the towns and the fire districts are responsible for that tax rate. So the final step of the reappraisal process is the appeal process. So property tax is the only tax that you can file an appeal for. So as these notices go out here in the next week or so, citizens are going to get that in the mail, and we ask them to follow a 3-step process if they have questions. The first step is go online and review your information. So make sure that your square footage, your bedrooms, your bathrooms, everything looks correct. If it's not, we can go ahead and address that. Still going to ask you to fill out some paperwork or call the office, let us know, and we can go ahead and get that corrected. Second is to go online and compare your property to other properties that sold. So those 8,000 sales, we're working to put those online. Those will be online here in the next, probably by the end of this week. And you can go online and look at what your neighbors are paying for their house. So compare your house to similar houses in your neighborhood and see what they're paying to see if your value is in line, again, with those sales. And lastly, if you still disagree with the value, go ahead and file an appeal. So if you do choose to file an appeal, we ask that the appeal be based on the value of the property. And there's a couple things that we see from time to time for appeals. The percent change from the last reappraisal is not necessarily a valid reason to file an appeal. So as you saw, there's homes that went up 30%, 40, 50, 60, 70%. That is not necessarily a reason to file an appeal. The affordability, the expected taxes. So we know that as values go up, that becomes more and more of an issue. There are programs that are administered through the tax office that are dictated to us by the state to help with that. There's a elderly and disabled exemption. There is a circuit breaker exemption and a veterans exemption. So if you know anybody that might qualify for those, please feel free to have them contact the tax office, and we'd be happy to walk them through the qualifications. And if they do qualify, help get them enrolled in those programs. And the last reason to not file an appeal is the level of services provided. So how to support your appeal. So if you do choose to file an appeal, we're looking for some type of evidence. Anything to show why the market value that we have on the property is incorrect or different from what you believe the value is. So this could be comparable sales from our website, it could be comparable sales from a broker or an appraiser. Maybe you have a recent fee appraisal if you recently purchased your home or refinanced your home. That can be really good evidence. If there's something wrong with your house, maybe there's a leaky roof or foundation problems, or maybe there's something on the inside that we just didn't know about because we didn't go in the house. So feel free to send in pictures of that. That's really good evidence. And if you have any sort of quotes from contractors, maybe you do need a new roof and you have a quote, feel free to send that in. But again, we're looking for some sort of evidence to defend the appeal. So again, to recap, if you have any data errors, those can be addressed fairly quickly. Appeals should be based on value and not the percent change or the expected taxes. If we get a call on how will this affect my tax bill, the answer right now is I don't know. Y'all haven't started, I don't know if you started the budget process, but the budget's not adopted for a couple months, so we don't know what the effective tax bill will be. And if you're going to file an appeal, please make sure that it is in by 5 p.m. on May 8th. So here's just a quick image of a sample appeal form. So again, you can file your appeal online, you can mail in a form, or you can come into the office and drop your form off. There's also a separate appeal form for personal property. And again, please make sure if you are going to file an appeal that it is in by May 8th at 5 p.m. You want to just touch on these for a second?
So again, with the tax relief programs, we the state offers 3 different programs that you can that you can apply for. The first is the elderly exclusion, which is for our senior citizens age 65 and older with an income of less than $38,800 in the 2025 year. They must own the home where they reside. This would be a $25,000 or 50% exclusion, whichever is greater based on the value. There's also the disabled persons exclusion, which offers the same benefit, but you must meet the income requirement. There is no age requirement, but a certification of disability from a physician is required, and you must own the home where you reside. And lastly is the disabled veteran exclusion, which offers a $45,000 exclusion from the value of the home for those honorably discharged from armed services that have a 100% permanent and total service-connected disability. And that certification is verified through our VA office. And also, they must own the home where they reside. So if those applications can be in our office by June 1st, citizens may qualify for these programs.
All right, so the next steps here, again, January 1st was the effective date of the reappraisal. We plan to mail notices towards the end of this week, early next week. So you should expect those in your mailbox probably this weekend or early next week. The appeals process will start as soon as the notices go out. The deadline to submit appeals is May 8th. So again, May 8th at 5 p.m. Make sure all the appeals are in by then. And the first tax bills that are affected by this reappraisal will go out in August.
And I would like to say also for those in the room today and those listening on YouTube, all of this information is available on our website at www.harnett.org/tax, along with our tax relief programs and the presentation you've seen today. Any questions?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
The first one I have is, a couple of meetings ago, I talked about the reappraisal process, and I understand it, and doing it every 4 years is what makes it fair to all the taxpayers. My question, one of the first questions I have, according to the schedule, how you have to have the appraisal done, you'll start the process again in 2028, January of 2028. So you go through this process again, and the market values that you did this one at was as high as it's ever been in Harnett County. So come March of 2028, January 2028, the market values have dropped back down. Have you ever seen, I don't know that I have, the valuations go down? You see what I'm saying? Does it go back down if the market, the area changes?
Yeah, absolutely. So I started doing this in 2006. I've been doing this about 20 years. So if you remember what happened in 2007, 2008, in those 2008, 2009, 2010, even 11 and 12 reappraisals, we saw some really dramatic increases. One of the ones that I worked on for 2013 was Currituck County. So Currituck County's previous reappraisal was back 2007 or 2006, I think it was. So that was a huge increase. You take all those properties on the beach, huge increase. Well, in 2013, the market was still really, really low, and that shifted. We saw the mainland properties go up, but we saw the beach properties in that reappraisal just absolutely go down. We're talking 40-50% decreases. Don't quote me on that. That was a long time ago. But to answer your question, we absolutely do see that happen. It just depends on the cycle and where you're at. And so yes, that could happen. But again, it's important to remember this is a 26 reappraisal. So if the county sticks on the 4-year cycle, like Department of Revenue recommends, your next one will be 2030. So if your values go down in calendar year 26, 27, 28, that won't be captured until the 2030 reappraisal.
Well, the other thing I just wanted to say, not necessarily a question to y'all, but just so people understand, we set the tax rate for the county, and say we decide to stay revenue neutral, if that's what we do. We don't control the cities, and a lot of the cities go ahead and raise, even though we stay revenue neutral. We don't control what their rates are. So sometimes people living in cities get a bigger tax increase than the county people do. I just wanted to say that because I've had people from the cities hit me up pretty hard about that, and, we don't control their rates. But
That's correct. So each taxing jurisdiction decides their own tax rate, each town and then the county. That is correct.
Anybody else have questions? Can you take care of my phone in August or whenever those fail?
Yeah, just forward them to the office.
Yep.
Starting next week.
Well, like I said, we'll be available. We have plenty of people on the phone, so please direct them to the tax office. We'll be happy to answer any questions and walk them through the process of what we did or the appeal process on how to file an appeal and go through that process.
But we do appreciate your work, and we really appreciate you finding 1,000 mobile homes that had never been taxed. That is amazing.
Well, thank you. It was a big project. Any other questions? That's it?
Maybe
All right.
later on.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Wow, this is going to be big. All right, item number 8, Development Services briefing on upcoming public hearing.
Hi there, good morning, Commissioners. Sarah Arbor with Development Services. So we will be bringing before you 3 rezoning cases this morning, as well as a text amendment and then a brief presentation on sidewalks. So for our first case is Plan 2512-003. This is a requested rezoning as well as a land use amendment. The applicant is Mr. Montgomery Ballard, and the property is approximately 29.42 acres located on Pilgrim's View Lane, which is off of Hodges Chapel Road in Dunn. And the requested rezoning is to go from the industrial zoning district to the RA30 zoning district, and to amend the land use from the employment growth area land use classification to the rural and agricultural land use classification. So that the board is aware, this property does currently have, it is split zoned, so it has 2 zoning classifications that is currently industrial and conservation. The conservation portion of the property is located in the northern part of the property where there are environmentally sensitive areas, and that will not be changing. That is not a part of this rezoning request. Next, we'll take a little time to describe the site. So it's currently vacant. There's currently a pond which is under construction. The applicant stated that it will be for irrigation purposes. The surrounding land uses of the site are residential and agricultural activities. There are several constraints that make industrial development of the site unlikely, including the privately maintained road, the lack of utilities in the vicinity, as well as the surrounding land uses, which are predominantly residential and agricultural in nature. So as staff was evaluating this, staff was able to answer everything in the affirmative, with the exception of our criteria about consistency with the land use plan. So that is why there is also a request to amend the future land use to the rural and agricultural, because per state statute, the requested zoning district and the land use, underlying future land use, do have to be consistent. But staff found that the uses which are permitted within the RA30 zoning district are far more compatible than the ones in the industrial zoning district, considering the residential nature and residential and agricultural nature of the area. So staff is recommending approval at the planning board. The planning board voted unanimously to recommend approval as well, and there was nobody present to speak in opposition. And staff is open for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, well, moving on to our next case. We've Plan 2601-0001. This is a requested rezoning from the commercial to the RA20R zoning district. Our applicant is Trudeau Nichols. The property is approximately 4 acres. It's located at 3011 Will Lucas Road in Linden, North Carolina. So the site consists of a single-family residence as well as several accessory structures. Through research, I found that the property was rezoned to commercial by request of the applicant in 2000. The reason for that was the hope that it would increase the property value. Since there has not been any commercial development on the site, and there is no commercial development and in the surrounding area, services available to the site include public water, and it would rely on private septic. On the zoning compatibility map, you can see that this property is pretty well surrounded by RA20R, which is a requested zoning district. There is that commercial piece to the south, which was a part of that rezoning request back in 2001. There has since been no commercial development of that property. The future land use classification for the property is low density residential. So that is consistent with the requested zoning district RA20R. So due to compatibility with the surrounding land uses, the surrounding zoning classification, as well as the land use plan, staff is recommending approval. At the planning board, they voted 5-0 to recommend approval, and there was nobody present to speak in opposition. And staff is open for any questions.
No questions?
Okay, perfect. Moving along, our next case is Plan 2601-0002. This is a requested rezoning from the RA30 zoning district to the commercial zoning district. The applicant for this case is Illyrian, and the request is to rezone 3.95 of approximately 14 acres of a property which is currently split zoned on Bud Hawkins Road in Dunn. So currently about 2/3 of the property are zoned commercial, which is the requested zoning classification. There's a portion to the east closest to Bud Hawkins Road, which is currently zoned RA30. So the site is comprised of 3 properties. Currently, there are 2 residential units located on 3 of the properties. The other property is vacant. And as staff was going through and doing our evaluation, we found that the property has been zoned industrial since zoning was adopted for the Barrysboro Township back in 1988. Surrounding land uses for the property consist of a gas station, an in-ground pool company, which is located to the north, a religious institution, and single-family residences. In terms of services available for the site, there's public water and private septic would be utilized. The annual average daily trips for the section of Bud Hawkins are approximately 250, and site distances here are described as good. Next, we'll review the zoning compatibility map. As you can see, this rezoning request is happening in a mixed area. There is some RA30 located to the east, but predominantly the property is already zoned commercial. There's commercial zoning to the north and some done commercial zoning to the south. Next, we'll review the land use compatibility map. So the underlying land use employment mixed use, does support a rezoning of the property to commercial. So due to the existing zoning on the property, the surrounding zoning and land uses, as well as compatibility with the future land use plan, planning staff is recommending approval of a rezoning. At the planning board hearing last week, the board did vote 5-0 to recommend that the requested rezoning for the partial rezoning of the RA30 zoning district to the commercial zoning district be approved. There were 2 residents who did speak in opposition at the planning board hearing against the rezoning request. Both residents own property, which is adjacent to the site. They did express concerns that the proposed rezoning would alter the residential nature of the community, increase traffic on Bud Hawkins Road, which is a 2-lane roadway, including additional large truck traffic, and potentially reduce the surrounding residential property values. And staff is open for any questions. Thank you.
No questions?
Okay.
Are you doing item D?
Okay, and next we have a text amendment. This is being requested by the Harnett County Development Services. It includes a new addition as well as revisions to the Unified Development Ordinance. And the purpose of this text amendment is to establish conditional zoning. So the text amendment revises Article 4, 13, and 14. And I know Development Services staff has recently presented to the board to discuss conditional zoning, including what the benefits and opportunities and things that we should consider with moving forward with conditional zoning. But it is the purpose of this is to establish zoning districts that have mutually agreed upon conditions to ensure conformance with our adopted plans and to mitigate any potential development impacts. So unlike conventional rezonings, much like the last 3 cases that I presented this morning, rezonings to a conditional zoning district may include site plans, individualized development conditions, and they may also limit the range of permitted uses. But conditional zoning does provide assurances to both this board and the residents who reside nearby when these changes of zoning are requested. They do have the potential to yield higher quality development in the county. So the conditional zoning is a recommendation of our newly adopted land use plan. It is identified as a strategy in several of the chapters in the land use plan to help us achieve our community goals of getting higher quality development in the county. It helps to mitigate impacts from development, preserve agricultural land, and will help us to implement our village districts as well. So the process for creating conditional zoning districts in the county will begin with a pre-submittal meeting between staff and the applicant. This is a meeting to discuss the application submittal requirements and the process for rezoning to a conditional zoning district. This will also be an opportunity for staff to advise the applicant and to set some expectations and provide maybe some preliminary conditions. Included in the process too will be further staff review. If there are other members of the Development Review Board who need to review the conditional zoning case, this will be sent out to them, and this will give them the opportunity to perhaps also negotiate some conditions that could better the proposal. Our process also includes a public input meeting So this would be required when a project reaches certain thresholds. So for a residential project that exceeds 250 dwelling units, there will be a public input meeting required, or when there is a non-residential project which exceeds 5 acres, a public meeting would be required as well. The purpose of this is to involve the impacted landowners early in the process, which could help possibly reduce some opposition, and the outcome could be some negotiated conditions that help those people become a little bit more comfortable with the development proposal. Like our conventional rezonings, this will follow the legislative process. Excuse me. So these will also go before the planning board. We will be relying sort of heavily on our planning board to review these after staff, and we bring this forward to them, and to recommend conditions. The planning board will have the authority to recommend that this goes back down to staff and bring it back before them in order for a favorable recommendation. Or the board can also request that any conventional zoning request that comes before them comes back as a conditional zoning request. Then, of course, the project will come here before this board. And the idea is that as staff has gone through this process, which is longer than our conventional zoning process review, all in all, that takes a little less than 2 months from the time that application is submitted to our department until it comes before this board in a morning meeting, and then to a public hearing. This process will take a little longer. It'll be about a 60-day stop time review before it goes to the planning board, and then before this board, and then to a public hearing. But the purpose of that is to bring the best possible product before this board. So hopefully by the time it gets here, we've worked out and negotiated majority of the conditions. And it'll use our time more efficiently during public hearings. So there's kind of a long list of the sections which have been revised, mainly under Article 4. The text for the conditional zoning is Article 4, Section 4. The other sort of long list of revisions there, really just reorganizing many of those sections to become subsections as we made room for our new conditional zoning text. There was a change in Article 13, which was a revision to a reference that referenced a section that had been changed. And then in Article 14, we have added a definition for conditional zoning districts. So at the planning board hearing, the planning board did vote unanimously 5-0 to approve the text as written. And we did have one who spoke in support of conditional zoning. He supported it because he feels that it's an important tool that could help balance rezoning requests by addressing the residents' concerns while still providing developers with the flexibility needed to respond to market demands. So that's all from staff, and I'm here for any questions.
I'll entertain a motion on the text amendment.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Who has the final approval say? Will it be commissioners?
Yes, ma'am, that's correct. This board will have the final say.
That's what I want to know.
Yes,
I
ma'am.
can read all this stuff, but I want to hear it from you.
Yes, ma'am, absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
I think this is outstanding. I realize that it's going to be a lot more work on y'all's department, but I really believe that we're going to be able to get a more quality product, able to, per se, dictate a little bit some things that we would like to see, especially when we get these reasons. Absolutely outstanding.
I just want to say something else. It's absolutely outstanding, and I agree with you because it kind of offset this 382 that the state legislature that's put out there to be voted on. And that completely takes away our rights. So thank you. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. No, you're correct. And I didn't mention that in this presentation, but it is, as you mentioned, it's one of the
It's
one
very
viable
important.
tools we have to amend our zoning ordinance
I
now.
think it's very important, and you have done your job. So thank you.
Oh, I thought this was the text thing.
There's a presentation. It'll be on the agenda for next week for a public hearing. We have to have a public hearing
On
on
that
the
one,
changes.
okay.
Yeah.
All right, moving on to item 9. Thank you. I thought you had it with the text. Discuss policy on requirement of sidewalks.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. We appreciate you having us here this morning. I understand that you received a request through a public comment, and so you asked us to come and talk to you a little bit about sidewalks and how they work in Harnett County, and what maybe we need to make some changes to the regulations that we have. Before we start, I think it's important to talk about sidewalks in general. Sidewalks in a county setting is not typical. Sidewalks are usually found in municipal settings, the towns and cities. But Harnett County and a lot of parts of our county, especially the western part of the county, we kind of walk and talk like a city. We have we have water and sewer, and we have some subdivisions that have become pretty dense or smaller lot subdivisions. So I think it's important when you talk about sidewalks that you understand that it's not totally typical to find those in a county setting, but we're willing and able and look forward to the opportunity to maybe add more to it. Sidewalks, I've been here for a long time. When we first started growing in, I would say 2004, and we're still growing, of course, but early on, that leadership that was in place at the time was eager for us to bring in new developments to the county, and they did not want to see anything that would add to the cost of development. So sidewalks was seen as, especially because a lot of our developers at the time were local developers, and they felt like sidewalks just added to the cost of development. So it impeded the growth at that time. And so the leadership didn't feel like we should add sidewalks as a requirement for every subdivision. As we continued to grow, we wanted to do something in our department, and the leadership wanted to do something to help add sidewalks or incentivize maybe bringing those to developments. And so in 2007, when we came up with the compatibility design requirements for the county, or concept in the county, we basically incentivized a smaller lot or more density. In return, the county or the project would receive more amenities, and one of those amenities were sidewalks, curb and gutter, street trees, and at the end of the day, we got a better product. You may have heard me stand up, or Sarah say, during rezonings that we've had where developers trying to get a smaller lot, you may have heard me stand up and say, hey, you can achieve this by going through the compatibility process, trying to get to a better product. That's why we typically try to steer folks to that type of development. Sidewalk requirements come basically out of 3 documents in the county. Obviously, the primary one is our UDO, which is the one that kind of dictates how we develop our subdivisions or our developments through the county. But there's other documents that are also guiding lights when it comes to sidewalks. One of those being the Comprehensive Transportation Plan, often referred to as a CTP. Those are done for us by DOT. And I'll get into a little later on why it's important to have sidewalks on some of your major roads or state roads later on in the presentation. But we also, in 2021, we had the Harnett County Bicycle Pedestrian and Greenway Plan that was developed. And basically what this says is, hey, if you do a development and it's on this road, we really want to see a side path, or if it's a situation where Parks and Rec, we got like Greenway that's potentially moving through the area, it's a requirement too. So it's not a side, and I'll I'll talk about the differences basically, but there's a difference between a side path and a sidewalks that you see internally inside of a subdivision. As I mentioned, conventional subdivisions, sidewalks are not required for conventional or what we call a by right subdivision, and sidewalks are required on one side of the road in our compatibility development subdivisions that I mentioned. And this is what you see in front of you is the compatibility design table that we use that says that if you're in this zoning district and you're in this land use plan and you give us this open space, then you can get this size lot, and basically it's a break from whatever the conventional zoning district is for that area. This has been limited a little bit. I don't know if members of the board who were on there, we've moved to where you can't go smaller than a 10,000 square foot lot through this process in the county anymore. Used to, you could go much smaller, and obviously you had sidewalks on both sides of streets because you had wider streets and things like that. Other development types that we require sidewalks for, multifamily developments, apartments and things like that. We don't see a ton of those in the county, but when we do require sidewalks basically from the parking lot areas and around the complex itself. So if you see those, you'll generally see sidewalks for those projects as well. Plan unit developments are usually, those are negotiated now. It's a little change from some of the ones like Anderson Creek Club, how they were developed, but most of our plan unit developments are negotiated, and usually sidewalks are normally asked for in that situation. I would anticipate you seeing this through the conditional zoning process that Sarah just talked about. When you start to go through that process and start negotiating those projects, sidewalks, I suspect, would be a big add-on that we would ask for in most of those types of developments as a handoff between the two. And then also, if a non-residential project is located along one of those roads that I mentioned earlier that are identified in the plans that I mentioned, then they're asked to put in a side path in front of those projects as well. So in the picture that you have here, you see one in front of one of our fire stations that was recently built and has a side path in it. Currently. This is just the pretty much the technical side of sidewalks for the UDO. This is what, if they are required, then these are the things that we lean on to help us say the size of the sidewalk and the side of the road, the type of streets and all those. More of the technical side of where sidewalks are in the UDO. And then, as I mentioned earlier, I said I would talk about this a little bit more. Basically, DOT says that, like, if you have this thing identified in your CTP or any plan, basically, when we come in and we upgrade a road or we put in a new road and you've identified that you have these pedestrians or bike plans there, then they'll install those when they build the road. A good example of this is Ray Road. That's a 4-lane road that was put in. That's how we ended up having sidewalks on Ray Road. Like I said, it's not typical that you see it in the county setting. And one thing to keep in mind when you see it on a state road, we, meaning the county, we have to take on the responsibility to maintain those. So we have 2 projects that I know that are going now. We have a roundabout that's going in on Buffalo Lake Road. It's going to have some sidewalks that are just within the project's parameters, so to speak, but it will eventually work its way down to the next project in the same area, which is the Highland School Road extension, which we will have a side path that will run down the entire length of that road, which if you, just like Ray Road, that connects 3 schools, a very dense area, and so when you see development that typically follows schools, you'll see opportunities for students to walk to school, ride their bike, and do other things, along with the recreational aspects that you see for it. Now, as I mentioned, we've been doing a really good job, and you're starting to see the fruits of the labor, so to speak, along Highway 210 and 401. When you look over, you're starting to see the side paths being put in. Some of those are hooking to Lillington requires the same thing. So I know we have one that's just up here on 210 where a project's working its way from a Lillington project to our project, and you're starting to see these side paths make their way. Eventually, hopefully, we'll see a development that will go from say, Lillington all the way to Anger with a side path, and a person could get on a bike and travel that entire length of that way by that requirement. Another one that we've put in, we spent a lot of money, the county participated in a project to put a sidewalk along 421 from Campbell University, from their main campus to their medical campus. And I ride that road every day, and every time you go past it, there's always students running on it. I think Campbell even runs some of their vehicles on it, and things like that. But either way, it is highly used, and so it's good to have these things, especially on some of our major roads. So things are starting to change. And also I wanted to mention too that if a developer didn't want to put in the side path, they are allowed to do a fee in lieu of, and that money is taken in by Parks and Rec. And so they pool that money, and then when it makes sense to put a new section in, maybe the county funds that, or maybe we work with one of our partners, FAMPO or Campo, through a LAP project or any of those things, then that'll give us a pool of money to kind of make those connections when it makes sense. And then finally, the future sidewalk policy. The 2040 land use plan recommended that we expand our pedestrian and bicycle infrastructure for the county, and so that's a focus that we want to do. We appreciate having this conversation this morning. I will admit this is probably the first time I've ever had a board ask us to come in and talk about sidewalks. Usually it's not something that's discussed, at least at this level, so we certainly appreciate that. And it comes at a very timely or a good time for us in the fact that we're working with our transportation consultant currently to look at some of our changes in our subdivisions, like the number of driveways or requiring that we have turning lanes. And so sidewalks is a natural progression that we could have them look at also while we're going through this little 3-4 months process study that we're looking at now. So like I said, it's a good time to look at it. And then we would appreciate your feedback. We would, if you want us to, you can just say, hey, look, we want to see sidewalks more in our subdivisions, and we can certainly make sure that gets addressed while we're going through this process now with our transportation consultant. Like I said, it's a good time to do it. And we anticipate what we're calling our enhanced regulations to be finished probably late summer is when we're going to get the regulations. Then we'll take that back, or we're going to get the recommendations, I should say. We'll take those back, just like we did with conditional zoning, and we'll formulate a text amendment based on what your recommendations as well, or your direction, I should say, and then we'll go from there. So that's it. I'll entertain any questions. I appreciate your time this morning. By the way, this has been a great meeting. I don't know if being in the results that came out first, but then it was followed by the the tax reval, so I felt good about it. So after that, so anyway, we appreciate that. So.
Yeah, no, that's outstanding. I guess the sidewalks, especially in some of the areas, definitely not in the municipalities, is an afterthought now with all the growth that we're having. And I kind of got really hot and heavy onto this in like 2017, 18, when that whole Greenway push was really starting to happen. And looking into things, the towns and the municipalities actually had the advantage to where they were able to kind of get a lot more funding for this because they were able to apply for things. Since the county, if we're able to put these in our plans and get DOT in order to start, contributing when we do put in these roads, that'll definitely ease things up. One thing that Roger Freena and I worked on about 2018, we were looking at a grant for sidewalks then down Alpine and Buffalo Lake Road, and we found out that the townships and municipalities, and then we found out that unincorporated municipalities actually qualify as well. And unincorporated municipalities are the census designated places. So we created about 3 of those, I believe. And that was, so hopefully we can get some of these grants. But those are good tools. Those CDPs are actually good tools for us to start doing for a lot of these projects. And we got a couple other things like the zip code as well
Right.
for us to be able to kind of outline those. So for the areas that we don't have in, incorporated municipality, I think we can keep towards that and broadening kind of enterprise and just using that tool. But yeah, this is great. I think we'll be able to start saving a lot, resources, wear and tear with buses, start getting some of these kids to walk to school. So.
Absolutely, too. I would mention, I know some of you all serve on FAMPO or CAMPO. It's important, during those meetings, there are LAP grants and there's opportunities that we've never had before, especially in the western part of the county, because we have FAMPO covers more area in that area now. So we can apply for those LAP grants and stuff like that. Now they take a lot of work, but it's another way to help fund projects like that. And hopefully the Buffalo Lake Road project, that'll eventually be expanded and 4-laned. It'll be a while from now, but that'll happen. But when it does happen, it should have sidewalks on it. So it's good to know that. Is there any other questions?
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Moving on to item 10, discuss and consider approval of request to award Task Force Order 4 powder activated carbon pack testing and I'm not even going to say that word, substances preliminary engineering report.
Just say PFAS. Thank you, commissioners and managers. Task Order 4 with CDM Smith Engineering is for us to continue the PFAS study at the water plant. We're currently finishing up a pilot study where we're reviewing about 8 different treatment methods for PFAS. This task order would address the site criteria, the layout requirements. It would also look at our estimated costs and implementation schedules. And then another task order within this would be to evaluate our existing powder activated carbon infrastructure, because it does have some treatment capability for PFAS now. And of course we use that for taste and odor control currently. But this PER, once complete, would then allow us to go into the next step of our compliance goal, which would be to actually bid the project so that we can meet our 2031 guideline for implementation from the EPA. So we're asking your approval for Task Order 4 for the PER in the amount of $500,000. I'll be happy to answer any question.
Have a motion on that, motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor? You got? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion carries.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
What is the percentage of PFAS in our water now? Is it the same or has it moved up?
We stay right around the threshold. There's occasions when we have a spike if we have an upstream discharge. But once we finish this process, we'll be at or below the threshold limit. So we'll be in full compliance. We have till 2031 to be in full compliance with the treatment standard, which is 4 parts per billion.
Good. It's a lot better than copper.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Trout.
Thank you, Chairman. I have a few items here this morning. Item C in my agenda, I haven't been able to reach the state contact related to the St. Joseph and Pines PACE program. Once I get a hold of them, I'll put this back on the agenda to be able to provide the information. The survey information that was presented earlier, the actual detailed report, and then the presentation will be online on our website. So if citizens are interested in digging deeper into the survey, they'll have that ability. Also, there's a long list of comments. There were some open-ended questions, and there's some comments that people will be able to look at. I want to recognize our emergency management services. They were recently awarded by the American Heart Association the Lifeline EMS Gold Status Achievement Award for proven dedication to ensuring access to best practices in life-saving care. And that really relates to their response times and their abilities to help individuals that end up in a cardiac situation. So very strong indication of the quality program that we have. I presented for you on your table a blank copy of the priority projects list. I need to receive that back. We have our legislative luncheon on March 31st, and I need to provide that information once received from you back to them regarding our priority projects. So please take some time and fill that out and return that to me. I'd appreciate it. I also provided you our mobile unit schedule from Health Department for this month. I want to recognize we served 172 scoops of ice cream for our Employee Appreciation Day. It was a great, almost summer-like day to have the event. A lot of folks came out and got some ice cream, so it was a good event. You also were presented a invitation to our Harnett Management Academy graduation. That's April 15th at noon. You're welcome to attend. These are individuals that are in either leadership positions or may be considered for leadership positions in the future. They've been going through an 8-month program to help them to become better leaders for us in the future. That's one of the things that we received in feedback from our staff is that some of the leaders we get appointed, we don't provide them good training, and this academy is giving them the tools that they need to be a better leader within our organization. And I need a motion to approve budget amendments as requested by the Finance Office.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, aye? Aye. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Any new business?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to have a discussion about system development fees in certain commercial settings. Would you like me to proceed on?
Yes, sir.
Okay. There have been two situations brought to my attention in the last 2 weeks or so. One is there is a developer building a hangar at the Harnett County Airport, and he is a licensed public utilities contractor, and he installed the water and sewer tap at no cost to the county. I've already talked to Mr. Trout about this, and he's received a bill for a system development fee for $7,500. So we have nothing invested in it. We're going to reap the benefits of an $800,000 hangar and millions of dollars worth of aircraft that would be housed there. I have another scenario in Irwin where a gentleman bought a lot for $200,000. He's building an approximately $750,000 building. The taps were already there, and he's got a bill for $10,000. What I would like to see is in these very limited commercial settings that staff be granted the authority to, in these situations, waive the system development fee because we've got nothing invested. We're going to benefit largely from the tax base that they're creating, and it sends a message that we want to encourage commercial growth. But my understanding is with the way the UDO is written today, staff doesn't have the authority to waive that, and I think we need to amend that. And I'll put that in the form of a motion if you'd like, but I wanted to see what the rest of you thought about it.
Well, I mean,
Yeah, his statement is accurate. Right now, the authority to waive those system development fees is with the board. And so anytime that we have an individual that would like to have those fees waived, I would need to put it on the agenda and ask for the board to grant approval. So it might be one of those things where maybe there's a threshold that you want to see. The system development fees are intended because there's an investment in our infrastructure that's required, and the system development fees are there to reimburse. But the argument that the commercial benefit that would occur, we could consider waiving those fees. And so if the board would grant that authority to staff, we'll evaluate each one of those to determine whether it makes sense for a waiver.
So isn't that the way it is now?
Well, right now, it has to come before the board for approval. So in these two situations that he mentioned, I could add that to the agenda and the board could approve, but it's obviously, there's a little bit of delay that occurs in order to bring that and give that back to the individual that has requested it based on just a light, the wait time to get it back on the agenda and grant approvals. So.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I mean, it's already there, but still the board has the right to approve it.
Who would we grant that authority to? Would it be the?
It would be granted probably to the county manager.
Okay.
And what I would say, personally, on system development fees, I would say any system development fee under 10,000 would probably be appropriate. I think some of our larger ones that are 2-inch are in the 30,000, 40,000 range, and I think that's a little above my pay grade, I think, to waive. So
Yeah, but even those, I mean, start getting into those taps, those ones are definitely going towards something more on the corner.
oh yeah, those are much
So,
larger industrial and so forth. That's why it's set up in the UDO the way it is. So.
Mr. Morris, will you amend your motion?
I will. I gladly amend it to give the manager authority to suspend system development fees for $10,000 or less without board approval.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on that? All in favor, aye? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
All right, commissioner comments. Mr. Morris?
Oh, you want me to go first?
Absolutely.
I think we got a lot of work ahead of us today. Everybody's done a good job this morning. Staff, thank you for everything, for your accurate reports, and we'll move on for the day.
Ms. Barber?
I just want to give very grateful thanks to Melissa for providing us all these dates with the invitations and the meetings that we have. This is very important, At least we have it, we know what the date is, the place, and the time. Thank you very much.
Mr. Nichols?
I mean, I just want to thank staff. I feel like each one of these meetings each year, we're starting to learn things all together, and things are starting to flow. The ship is really turning. We're starting to see, lights at the end of the tunnels. We're approaching goals that we have set, and just feels good to be up here each meeting now. Finally, starting to have. Love it. Thank you.
I would like to thank Christina and all the effort y'all have done with everything on the reappraisal stuff. I mean, I got to understand that with the dramatic changes in some of this stuff, it's going to create a lot of conversation. We do appreciate the work. We are very aware of what's going on or trying to go on in the legislature, and we don't know how that's going to affect Harnett County right now. I think the state trying to get into dictating to the county how they get money to fund the county functions, especially when they're cutting back the funding that they're giving us. I don't know if you've been paying attention, but every time we turn around, they're taking money away from us. And the county is growing, and we want to keep the county growing. We want to provide the services, and the county employees, y'all are doing a great job. Y'all really are. We're really impressed with everything you're doing, and we're just thankful that we can have a county that is growing, but it's tough when it gets to these tax times and understanding how everything works. And we sit up here and we might act like we're just conducting business, but we're all very concerned about the tax rates. We're all very concerned about the reappraisal rates. And we are looking at every option we can to keep the burden on the citizens of this county as low as possible. All right, do we have a need to go into closed session?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I move the board go into closed session for the following purposes: to discuss and consider a personnel matter and motion to make pursuant to General Statute 143, 318, 11A6.
Second.
Motion any second. Any discussion about going to closed session? Hearing none, all in favor, aye? Aye. We are going to closed session.
Call the Harnett County Board of Elections to order.
And we will call the Harnett County Commissioners back to order now.
The chair does move that the Harnett County Board of Elections go into closed session to prevent the disclosure of information that is privileged or confidential pertaining to election security. This motion is made under General Statute 143-318, 111, parens A, parens 1.
Make a motion, we go into closed session along with County Board of Commissioners. Mr. Chairman.
Second.
I second.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
All right.
Mr. Chairman, you ready for me to call ours to closed session as well?
We're not, we're just invited into the Commissioners meeting, right? I mean, to the Commissioners.
Yeah, we would go into closed session with them also.
How are we gonna handle this closed session?
Do you want me to move and put us back in closed session? Okay. This time, Mr. Chairman, I move the board go into closed session for following purposes to prevent the disclosure of information that's privileged and confidential pertaining to election security. This motion is made pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 143-318, 11A1. Second.
I'll second because I think we need to discuss it just another. I think, Chris, don't we can go in there because they invited us, but we can't go into closed session, can we?
That's what that was in, I advised him that, but that was my understanding from our previous discussion.
Because we tried to upstairs.
I apologize.
So we can't, under having a discussion with Chairman Moody on this, is both boards can go into closed session as it pertains to specifically security as it relates to plans and movement of the ballots in the building and so on, that the boards can go into closed sessions to discuss those security details.
My fault.
It's for that limited purpose, though.
For that limited purpose, yes.
All right, all in favor? Aye. We are in closed session.
Dwight remembered it, does somebody remember the
It's gonna be a
Especially calling Southwest Water.
Oh, I'm sorry. Southwest Water and Sewer District are ordering this time. What business do we have? What business we have?
Go ahead.
Chris. Yeah, and, sorry, not to keep passing it out. Tom, you want to explain, this relates to 87.
So the Highway 87 Fourth Main project that we've got that we're ready to go to bid on, we had to obtain some both permanent and temporary easements from Fort Bragg to run some of the projects through their property. And this is the easement agreement with Fort Bragg. It's been through all of the DOD channels, and we have it for you to consider today so we can finalize this project. This is the only outstanding easement we have left to finalize on this project. So I'll be happy to answer any questions about it, but you do have to approve it as the Southwest Water and Sewer Board.
Outstanding. I make a motion that we approve this.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Yeah, let me go ahead and have a little discussion. This has been a long time coming. This is a fight though, but what this easement right here actually does frees up capacity, everything that we can on that western side down 87, which can hopefully bring in the economic growth that we're looking for down there, and we won't have any holdups as far as
water and sewer resources go, there is going to hopefully be a second phase to this one coming down the pipe, literally. And I'm very excited that, I mean, the wheels of government turn slow, and I'll tell you what, a lot of bureaucratic red tape we had to go through in order to even get here 5-6 years later. So this is awesome. So thank you for everybody.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. I will entertain a motion to close. I can just close the meeting again.
Sure.
I will close the, get it right again.
Been a long time coming.
The Southwest Water and Sewer District meeting to close at this time. I'll entertain a motion for the county commissioners.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion. Have a second. All in favor, say aye.